Season 17, very early first impressions. Let's go. I know this is pre-dungeon and everything, but I have a lot of faith that the dungeon is going to be at the level of quality that Bungie is used to delivering when it comes to that kind of content. So for the time being, we're just going to assume it was pretty good. Also, you don't technically get the dungeon with the season. You need to buy the Witch Queen dungeon key individually for 2,000 silver, unless you have the deluxe edition of the game, in which case you already have it, which is currently on sale, by the way. We've known about this, but it's gonna make no one who forgot this information very happy unless you bought the deluxe. Story-wise, I've always been very interested in what Callus has been up to, although with the Witness entering the picture, I think a little bit of the mystique has been lost for me because I was always kind of hoping that Callus was going solo and doing his own thing, but he seems to be paired up with the Witness, I think, in some way. I don't know, I'm not up to date on my lore. Either way, he's one of my favorites, and I'm very glad to see him return in some capacity. Eris is back and talking as well. The Nightmare World is kind of her territory and everything, so it looks like she's going to be helping Crow along the way this season, trying to purge his inner demons and confront them and all that kind of stuff. I'm actually very surprised that Crow has been such an important character since his reintroduction. It seemed like not so long ago that the entire plot line had been revealed and then completely dismissed behind Crow, and now here we are with Crow being a character with some of the most screen time in the past year. As I've said many times before, the story is one of the best things about the franchise right now. It is exciting to log in on Tuesdays and see what's up next. I basically have no gripes at all with how it's progressing, and I suspect I won't have any gripes as someone who isn't laser locked on the lore, as it doesn't take a whole hell of a lot to entertain me when it comes to storytelling. I don't think it needs a ton of feedback either, at least from someone like me who is just watching stuff unfold like I'm watching a movie and doesn't really engage too much more than that. The Leviathan being back is like seeing an old high school friend who you were never really that close with, maybe more of like an acquaintance. And, you know, I'm glad that they're doing all right, but if I never saw them again, it wouldn't really have mattered to me that much. I personally had enough of the Leviathan when it was around for the years that it was around. I didn't really ever want to run the raid after it was relevant, same for Eater of Worlds, and while I liked Spire of Stars, I also wasn't in the biggest rush to run it. We now have the Leviathan back as a patrol space, and it is fine. It's fine. It's neat to be able to go back for a little bit, be able to explore somewhat freely and all of that. It's a good use of the space as well, given the circumstances of the season. Mostly intact, with some areas getting some adjustments, mainly the pleasure gardens, but nothing too dramatic. It's giving me moon vibes from Shadowkeep. If you never got to experience the moon, then it was probably awesome for you. But if you already played the moon in D1, it probably didn't do a whole lot for you, although the extension onto the moon for Shadowkeep was nice. That's what I'm getting from Leviathan. I've been here, it's cool they repurposed it, it's cool to be able to walk around again, but I've done this experience before. Activity-wise, it's fine. It's a seasonal activity. It's within the bounds of what I think a seasonal activity is going to be. A lot of feedback saying we should have had a menagerie update. I think that would have been neat as well. But this is going to be a get my triumphs done and get out kind of situation for me, especially considering the seasonal activity is a public event without that much going on. We kill enemies, and we can run a ball into a thing to spawn a scythe. The scythe is fun, sure. Don't get me wrong, I've been having fun with it, but I can live without it. I'm mainly using it to get triumphs done so that I don't have to worry about it too much more. Enemy density is pretty solid here, and I'll give praise to enemy density during non-public event times as well. It feels like there's always some stuff to kill while walking around, which is very nice. Trespasser is the exotic of the season from the season pass, returning from D1. This gun is very good. It's very, very good. You can chain this thing forever, infinite ammo, ridiculously high damage. It's basically the only sidearm I ever liked in D1, and it will likely be the only sidearm I ever like in D2. It might be one of the reasons that anti-barrier sidearm is tolerable this season, although Arbalest still exists, and even with its nerf, it'll still be the best. Although the Catalyst gives tunnel vision, and the perk doesn't reload the gun in a way that triggers tunnel vision. So, yeah, that's something. When it comes to Solar 3.0, and this is going to be the bulk of the video, I've seen people on completely opposite sides of the fence. I've seen, this is terrible, oh my god, everything's falling apart, Void 3.0 was so much better. I've seen, this is great, I'm having so much fun, this is amazing, yay, fun times. And I'm definitely somewhere in the middle there, having not unlocked any major seasonal mods just yet, besides stuns on champions causing them to ignite, which, while fun, is essentially just you get a big chunk of damage on a champion whenever you stun it. I want to explore Solar 3.0 in depth in another video, probably my next video, but in this one I just want to talk about Solar 3.0 as a whole and kind of the reaction to it, my reaction, the community's reaction. I'm definitely not as negative as community feedback currently seems to be, and that's partly because I haven't really gotten to explore every single class with all the mods, and it's only been like 2 days. Small part of the problem here was lack of communication from Bungie on some nerfs and some adjustments, why things became what they became. People do not give a gosh dang, sorry for swearing, if Bungie buffs stuff. If Bungie put out patch notes that said everything is buffed with literally no reasons as to why it was buffed, no one would care at all. Not a single person. But when you nerf anything by any amount, people want to know why. Why did Sunspots have their bonus weapon damage removed? Why does Hammer Strike no longer debuff? I could probably answer that one. Why is Phoenix Dive now a class ability with what feels like the same cooldown as a Rift instead of being linked with an aspect? Healing Grenade got turned into its own thing, which isn't technically bad, but for support Warlocks, it's not great because you lose that flexibility. There are significant adjustments to abilities that people have been using for months, if not years, without much explanation. One of these changes was explained. Why Sol Invictus, aka what used to be Sun Warrior, not sure why they changed the name, had its ability regen reduced. It's because Bungie wants build crafting to get you those ridiculously low cooldowns that you were getting, as opposed to just one single thing giving you all of the benefits without any thought. Which is totally fair, given the Solar 3.0 changes and Bungie's general philosophy towards build crafting. If you want something now, you gotta build for it. It's not just gonna be given to you. I imagine this philosophy was used to dictate a lot of other changes, but because it's not explicitly mentioned, people are gonna get upset. Even if it is explained, Warlocks, for example, having to pick between Healing Grenade and a different grenade instead of being able to have both in the same grenade is something that's gonna bum people out after having it for so long. Something as radical as Phoenix Dive and Rift sharing an ability slot now, pretty dramatic change. Hammer Strike no longer debuffing is likely because Solar is not about giving a target the weakness debuff. Weakness is for Void now, so they changed it to stay in line with all of these Solar-based actions. I'm guessing there wasn't exactly a way to maintain the exact setups of the old subclass branches within the new system for whatever those reasons might be. And before I get put on blast for saying in a previous video that I don't mind that Bungie wants to keep some stuff hidden, I'm still okay with that, although it's definitely more directed at the narrative stuff and gameplay-based things versus sandbox. But as often as I have to talk about this in videos, that doesn't excuse not explaining things when they are revealed, especially when it comes to sandbox. People are very sensitive about sandbox. Before I get to the classes, I want to talk about Scorch stacks and Ignite. It can be very tough to tell how close you are to igniting something via Scorch. There's not much of a great indicator as to when your Scorch stacks are going to lead to an Ignite, other than the ticks of damage from Scorch turning from white to yellow, but that can be very easily lost in a sea of numbers, especially given the seasonal activity this season. It is tough to have an individual grenade lead to ignites on their own. They usually need to be supplemented with something else to get enough Scorch stacks to lead to an ignite. Although some of the terminology used here isn't really helping. Like, how many stacks of Scorch is moderate stacks of Scorch? Can this just be a number? Because it's a number in the patch notes. Can we make it a number in game? Ignite is great when you can make it happen, but it feels like it happens because I just threw everything that I had and the kitchen sink at an enemy, or an enemy stood in a sunspot for way too long, or like a grenade or something. And with Volatile being a thing on Void, it feels like I don't need to work as hard to make those explosions happen, although the only way to get Volatile rounds on your guns now is through a single fragment with a specific condition. Volatile Flow, remember, that's gone. Damage over time in Destiny has always kind of had a rough go of it. It's not really something you can utilize super well for something like the Scorch and Ignite combo because most things die too easily. They'll die to just the damage over time, and then you don't get the Ignite explosion, and that's the fun part. On Thorn, on Osteostriga, damage over time is kind of fine because those guns themselves spread it, and that's really about it. There's no other interaction. And I'd say there's a very small sweet spot where something like Scorch and Ignite, this damage over time stuff, can not only exist, but also feel good, and it's probably around the mid to end game levels of content. Legend range. Warlocks seem to have been gutted the most, with basically their entire bottom tree getting yeeted and middle tree getting tweaked and or slightly nerfed, so I can definitely sympathize with Warlocks right now. Warlock aspects are Icarus Dash, which is, you know, Icarus Dash, Touch of Flame, which buffs certain grenades, and Heat Rises. From an aspect perspective, From an aspect perspective, things are not that interesting. Sun Bracers, as an exotic, are easily the best choice, which is cool if you want to run Sun Bracers, but that's all that's really been figured out thus far. Warlocks did not get their bottom tree super energy extension mechanic put on their super, where getting a kill extends the duration of the super, which was the best part of bottom tree. Instead, they got the streak of flames behavior, which I don't think was anything that great. That being said, though, having the super extension behavior base on the ability might have been too much, but it feels like it should be somewhere. Well lost its overshield, but it gives more damage resistance now. I kind of feel that's mostly a wash. I don't want to be that guy and say that Well of Radiance has been super strong since it launched, but it has, so like I'm kind of okay with it. I know many people who play Warlock who ended up swapping away from Solar very quickly after the launch, but I also know Warlocks who are stoked that they can run Well of Radiance, Heat Rises, and Icarus Dash all at the same time now. So, kind of a matter of perspective. Titans, we lost that bonus weapon damage on Sunspots, but we traded it for a lot of survivability and being able to pair it with Roaring Flames, one of the best parts of a different subclass branch. So at the moment, I'm okay with that trade-off. But outside of the new melee attack, Titan didn't feel super different in terms of playstyle, but the melee attack is very fun, I will give it that. Also, with the resilience changes, where you now get 40% damage resistance at tier 10 resilience in PvE, put that and a Sunspot together. You will not die at all. Now pair all of that with an exotic that boosts your energy regen, that's pretty darn strong. Hunters feel like they got the most amount of goodies. Blade Barrage buff, all the different knives, a new support ability with the dodge, the bundle of grenades that you can throw and shoot. I feel like Hunters are pretty happy right out of the gate. I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel like you guys are pretty happy. Another thing to realize is that things can always be buffed. This is not the final version of Solar 3.0. Things can always be tweaked, and given how much more Bungie is able to patch and adjust the game, I suspect we'll see some adjustments during this season. Let things settle. Let's make some builds. Let's see how things are going to play out. Give it a little bit of time. We can revisit. I got plenty more things to say about Solar 3.0. We're going to be talking about builds soon, but I need to sink my teeth into it a bit more. It's only been a couple of days. Speaking of all of this, the seasonal artifact. Champion mods are Unstoppable Glaive, again, and Scout, Anti-Barrier Sidearm and Pulse, and Overload Trace Rifle, and Auto and SMG again, and Solar Grenades. Trace Rifles are still getting love from Bungie. They've been getting a lot of buffs. I thought we were going to see something with machine guns, but I guess not. I was not expecting Trace Rifle, though. I get the link with maybe like Divinity, but we use Divinity for the stun and the debuff. Very interested to see how Trace Rifles end up turning out in GMs. I'm going to do some testing for sure. The final column has a lot of goodies that I'm excited to explore, although there aren't a ton of combinations possible. A lot of things costing 5 and 6 in the class item slot. You can do something like Rays of Precision and Solar Fulmination, make your solar weapon crit kills proc a gigantic version of Firefly when you're Radiant. I was pretty excited about exploring flame harvesting, where solar exotic final blows create solar elemental wells, but after looking at what we can make happen with solar elemental wells, I'm not as impressed. Font of Might, yeah, sure, but Well of Life and Well of Ordnance just don't really get me that jazzed up compared to Volatile Flow from last season. But this was just a quick glance at things, and I don't have many of the mods unlocked yet. Once I actually dive in, play with the mods, we'll see what happens. Again, I'll have a video. Overall, though, this season is looking to be okay. Narratively, I think it's going to be awesome. Gameplay-wise, I think it is okay, I suppose. Sandbox-wise, I think it'll be pretty fun figuring out Solar 3.0 and the seasonal artifact mods. PvP-wise, I have not really touched anything yet. Real shocker there. I would hit up someone else for that for the time being. Although I'm not really anticipating the needle to have moved significantly on that end. Minus the whole aerial combat situation, of course, which probably needs its own video entirely. I'm still excited for Rift, though. Might make a video on Rift next week if I can make something out of it. We are also still very early in the season, and I think we're just maybe having a slower start. I haven't unlocked all of the artifact yet. We don't have the dungeon yet. We don't have Rift yet. So there is still a lot to explore. We don't have all of the fragments unlocked for Solar yet, which, by the way, we need to do 20 million Nightmare containments to unlock the remaining Solar fragments. So get to it. Again, this is first impressions, and a pretty early first impressions at that. But I think Burnout, pun not intended, is going to be knocking on my door. And I think if there's a season to take a bit more slowly, it'll be this one. After a couple of days of grinding pinnacles, I'm kind of over that already. Although that is probably more because I'm trying to force feed myself experience points to unlock the artifact mods, which not everyone is doing in the slightest. I went pretty hard over the past season, and Witch Queen and the season took a lot out of me. So I'll be using this season as an opportunity to recover a bit. We are whiplashing back into Destiny as usual mode with this new season, which isn't necessarily bad, but I think this season just feels like it has a bit of a slower start, with Solar 3.0 getting a lot of negative community feedback right now. I did just hit my 9th year on YouTube, and this game by extension, and fatigue is starting to show its head again. Again, regarding the dungeon, I have no reason to believe it's going to be bad or anything. Bungie usually does a very good job with that kind of content, and if I can make a video on my thoughts on the dungeon, I will try to do that. But considering the dungeon is not technically included with the season, I feel like I can put out my review now instead of waiting for the dungeon. That's it. Let me know how you're feeling. Give me a vibe check on the season so far. I'll see you next time.